All right, here we are at the bench once again. I'm getting ready to start a new series, and I just thought I would throw a little, how-to video together, and just kind of quickly review, um, some of the dies and some of the tools that I use. Um, so I'm getting ready to do some more 243 work. I'm a pretty big 243 fan. I've got a couple of them. I've used them since I was a kid. But yeah, it's a really good all round Pennsylvania rifle. But anyways, for reloading, I use a Lee Collet die. I got a video on the channel about that. For setting neck tension on the cases, I use the Lee Precision case trimmer. I also have a video on this. Check that out. This is a really nice trimmer. Um, I use a Redding body die. Since I set neck tension with, the collet die, I use a body die just to resize the case bodies and set the shoulder where I want it. And for now, I just use a standard, old school RCBS bullet seating die. It's just a stock die. At some point here, once I stop spending a bunch of money and everything else, I'm going to buy a nice, precision, micrometer adjustment seating die. But anyways, I'll review a little bit of the Redding body die in the next little bit of clip, and review, the 243 that I'm going to be working with here. So stay tuned. All right, so here's again we're going to be working with. This is, again, a Remington 700. It's the SPS model. It's a 243 short action rifle here. I guess from the bottom up on this guy, I've got a Magpul Hunter 700 stock. I am very impressed with this stock. It is a chassis style stock, so it's got the aluminum bed block in it. No pillars, no glass, no nothing. Just bolt this thing on and it shoots. I'm pretty happy with that. It's kind of my first, experience with a stock like that. It's very ergonomic. We'll kind of go over the pros and cons of this stock real quick while I got it here. It's very ergonomic. I like the fact that, I'm a bigger guy. You can kind of build this to fit you just how you want it to fit, right? So you can get adjustable comb. These guys, they make different sizes of these guys. They make spacers for length of pull, so you can get this stock to fit you just the way you want it to fit. So ergonomics is good. Looks good. This is a good looking stock. So overall, I'm very happy with the stock. The cons, however, there are a couple things that I do not like. I guess the first thing I don't like is it's a little bit heavy, which I guess is the most noticeable thing. Dragging this thing around all day long is gonna kind of wear on you, but it's not a big deal. Second thing that drives me a little bit crazy is, maybe I'm the only one who feels this way, but the whole Magpul system of mounting, attachments and stuff on a plastic stock is not good. Okay. What I've found is, you put a bipod or something on this, and any kind of like torque on these joints, it just loosens them up. And what it does is those little T-nuts just kind of barely grip the plastic. But what they do is they work and whittle away at the plastic, and then it gets loose, and then stuff starts to fall off the gun. So what's going to happen to this stock is I'm going to drill this thing out, because to mount rails and things like that I need while I'm out hunting with this. But that's one downside, or I guess two, with the weight. The second thing is, there's two versions of this stock. There's a Hunter 700 short action and a Hunter 700 long action. Well, the long action comes with the barrel channel for like a mountain or a sporter barrel, right? Like your standard barrel. The Hunter 700 though, the short action version of this guy, comes with a bull barrel channel in this thing only. So if you have a sporter barrel, right, or a mountain style barrel, it looks weird in the stock without a bull barrel. And of course, vice versa, if you have a long action or a magnum caliber, there is no bull barrel option. At least that I'm aware of. Maybe they've changed that. You know, these stocks are pretty good. They also make a very similar looking, feeling version of this for Ruger 1022 that has an interchangeable barrel channel. That's pretty smart. I wish they would have done this with the 700. So I have another 700 that I could probably put in a stock like this if I could, but it has a sporter barrel on it. Anyways, moving up from there, we've got a Weaver 20 MOA Picatinny rail on this guy. I've got Weaver, these are the heavy duty, 6-bolt scope rings for 30 millimeter tube. The glass I got on this guy is it's a Diamondback, it's a Vortex Diamondback, 6 to 24 by 50. This is a first focal plane scope. This scope is very good. I'm very happy with this. There are better optics out there, but for the price, for the quality, firm clicks, parallax that makes sense, great customer service. This is a really good scope. I'm pretty happy with this guy. First focal plane. This is my first focal plane scope. That's a game changer for me. That makes kind of dialing windage and yardages in on the fly or in a stiff wind, a lot easier. So yeah, that's the rig. So we're going to do a little bit of development for this guy, see what kind of groups and what kind of velocity node data we can get. All right, so the first thing we kind of need to do is we need to check the fit of the brass in the chamber, okay? And I kind of got down a road with tearing down this 700 bolt, and I thought, you know what, I might as well just put this in the video. But what I've done is you really want to remove the firing pin, which I'll show you how to do that, and also the extractor plunger. Because what we want to do is I want to chamber a case. I have a few different cases of different lengths, or different shoulder positions, I should say. And I want to feel, this is where, you put a case in that has like a tight bolt feel to it, and then you resize that case and you keep bumping the shoulder until that can barely be felt. You actually don't want it to be loose. You want to just feel it, right? So I'll go through that whole exercise. But first, with this guy, there's a little pin here for the plunger, right? You can just take a punch and kind of drive that out. It is really in there, okay? So it does, you do kind of have to smack it. But basically, once, you get it through there, kind of push it out. You do not push this. You do not want to push this a roll pin. You don't want to push this thing out, all the way. You just want to push it out enough. And really, what you do is you push it out enough to release the plunger. And you want to start from obviously the plunger side. You will push the pin the whole way out if you go from the other way. But yeah, it's a pain to get this thing back in once it's out. But that's how you do it. Okay. And then as far as pulling this guy out, I've seen people wrap strings around things. Really what you do is you get a penny, and I put this, basically the firing pin up against a piece of wood, right? We don't want to damage this this metal surface at all. You put this up against a piece of wood, you pull on that until you see the end of the firing pin assembly come out. There's a slot there, and you put the penny in the slot. So let me do that real quick. Just like that, right? And then from here, it's unthreads very easily, right? Now they make a special tool to compress this so you can pull the firing pin and release the spring and all that and clean it up. But I actually don't have that tool, and I've had a lot of 700s. I'm kind of partial to these actions. It's just familiar to me. And I've never actually removed the spring. I've been able to clean it and keep it clean without doing that. But tear down, this is how you do that. All right, so now we have a stripped bolt, and basically I'll push this pin back in and start chambering some empty cases and checking the fit. Here's the bolt, minus the firing pin and any type of tension. Now what I have here is a piece of Starline brass. This is new brass, okay? It's been fired one time, and I already checked it. I know it doesn't fit this this chamber at all. But this is all we're doing here is put the chamber in a case and then checking the any resistance. You can see there's no resistance on that at all. No wonder this thing doesn't seal. Okay, so let's see. We measure on this guy. This is how we're kind of getting into, you know, measuring the chamber. You do it with the brass, unless you want to wax mold it or something. All right, so we're zeroed out here on the headspace gauge. Right, and the way I read this is I zero it, this thing zeroes right at 2 inches. So this thing is actually reading 3.6, looks like 27, 3.627. And it does not fit, okay? Now I have this piece of brass. This is from my Lapua stock. See if I can get that in focus. All right. This has been, I don't know how many times it's been fired. It's 15 years old. I bought this stuff back in like, I don't know, 2003, 2004, something like that. Same thing already. That's so tight I can't, I don't want to really close it because I'm going to change the headspace. I'm going to change the shoulder on that thing because it's starting to cam over. But it has the resistance that we're looking for. So this is where we start. So this is a perfect case for this, okay? So what I'll do is we'll back this guy out. Let's take a measurement. See where this guy is quick. Ooh. So 3.633. Okay. So there you go. What is that? 5/6 thou difference. That's all it takes. So from here we'll set up the our die and start bumping that thing down. All right, so what I have here is, this is a Redding body die for 243. Basically what this thing does is it resizes the case and allows you to set your shoulder position, but does nothing to the neck. Okay, the neck tension is handled in other ways. It's not like your standard resizing die that you know, you basically decap your primer, you run the case all the way up through the top. It basically squeezes the neck down, and then when you pull the case out of the die, you have a resizing ball that's then, you know, pulled through the case. But it essentially works the brass 2 times, which is sort of what a bushing die does also. But for this, it's just the body that's going to be resized. The other thing that's worth noticing here is the shell holder. So here's how I do this, okay? And there's some videos out there that are great that kind of you know, kind of go over this. But what I use is the Redding competition shell holder set. And what's nice about this is you set the shell holders all have the same I guess outside height, right? So when I set this shell holder up, this is the number 10, and I run this guy up into the die, I set this up to cam over. And by doing that, it basically aligns the die and the case in the die and the ram all together, solid, right? So my shell holder's free floating. There's an O-ring in there holding that on instead of the metal clip. And there's also an O-ring in here. These guys kind of wobble around a little bit, but when you cam this over, it's now together. Everybody's together. So, and what we'll do is we'll run this case up through there and check the measurement on it. Once it comes out, check the feel in the gun. If it's still tight, then what you do is you don't adjust the die. You change out the shell holder. Like I said, this is the number 10. I'll put the number 8 in. That will push the case another 2 thou up into the die. So as you go down in numbers, it actually changes your or pushes your case farther into the die and changes that size by in 2,000ths increments. It's a great way of doing it. So let's see what we get here. Put a little wax on here. Well, this guy measured what? 33, 633 before. Cam that over. Pop it back out. Let's see what we get for measurement here. Give it a little twist. Looks like we're 630 and a half. Okay, 631 maybe. So it bumped at about 2 thou. Let's check the fit in the gun now. Really, all we're going to do here is you know, chamber the case, and you just want to kind of feel. Now the bolt guns kind of cam over as they go, so at the bottom, you know, you should feel tension increase as you get towards the bottom. It's definitely not loose, right, like the other case. There's definitely some tension there. Actually, that's probably the sweet spot. I'll tell you what though, this is a throwaway case anyways. This case actually has a cracked neck in it, which is a reason why I want to swap out these 15-year-old cases with some new stuff. Alright, so that last case was sized with the number 10. It seems to fit really well in the gun, but just for fun, I mean, you do this long enough, you kind of know what you're trying to feel, right? Just for fun, I've swapped out the shell holder, right? Here's the number 10, and I have the number 8 in there. And again, all these shell holders, the outside dimensions are all the same. So this shell holder will cam over, right, the same way the number 10 did. All right, let's put the case in there. Let's resize it again. And one thing I will say is you should do this with annealed cases. Okay, you can play head games with yourself if you try to resize cases that are springing back because they're not annealed. All right, let's see what we get here. Well, it's like the same. Okay. Well, let's put another shell holder in there. Let's see what happens. Let's swap this guy out real quick. All right, so there's the number 6. Same thing. Cams over. Let's see what this does. Oh, there we go. So that's bumped at about 1 thou. Okay. So there's 30. Let's see what that feels like in the gun. Oh yeah, not a lot there. Looks like 31, 32 is the sweet spot, for me anyways. I want just the slightest bit of tension on that thing. That way they all go in there the same way, and actually use the cam over from the bolt just to make sure that, no kidding, that thing fits. Now if you're going to go hunting out in the desert, or roll around in the brush, I guess you're going to want some clearance. But for what I do, this is perfect. All right, well that's that. Anyways, that's how I kind of do fitment for different chambers. And I do that with all the rifles that kind of come through here. I always try to get a hold of fired brass, and hopefully it's not once fired, right? But anyways, you need to understand the dimensions of the gun, or the dimensions of the chamber, so that you know where to set shoulders, and how the cases are going to perform with the loads you develop. So it's good to do that. I hope you found that helpful. But anyways, that's the gun that we're going to be using for the next series here. I'm going to do a little series using some 87 grain Vmax. We're going to do some development on that. So stay tuned. This is a really good bullet. Looking forward to sharing that workup. All right, stay tuned.